5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Here we are with Queen Karula in a tree. As you can see, she's still fast asleep where we left her this morning, up on the marula tree that was quite high up off the ground, with a hyena that is not very far away from us. So we were sitting in this exact position. And this afternoon, it's the only thing that's really changed is you've now got Bryan behind the camera with the jellyfish that looks quite excited with life, as well as Elvis the Ellie, who is out here with us today. So Mind Warp would like to know, are Karula's cubs okay? Mind Warp, we were wondering the same question this morning when we were here, as well as this afternoon. So, Mind Warp, I'll just fill everyone in with what actually happened this morning. We came across on the road. Basically, they're fine. We don't know where they are. Of course, we don't know if they're fine, but they're most likely deep in some thicket far away from where we are right now. But this morning we came and we were very careful. We just stood on the outside on the periphery to see what was going on. And, of course, we noticed Karula that was up a tree. And so we saw I saw 2 hyenas this morning playing, or not playing, walking around the bottom of the tree looking very, very hungry. And so we've sneaked in slowly to a position where we can have a view of Karula as well as the hyenas that are not so far from here. So, Mind Warp, the best answer is we're not sure what is the position of the cubs right now, but the most probable answer to it is that they are lying somewhere in a thicket or hiding up in a tree somewhere, not so far away from mother, but enough to be at the distance of the hyena. So Debbie has made a comment saying that when Karula lost her cubs last year, she looked very, very agitated. And what we are seeing of her right now is not an agitated look. She looks very relaxed and very full and relaxing in a tree. So she doesn't look agitated at all. So thank you, Debbie, for letting us know that. It's also quite helpful for us to understand what Karula has been through in the past and how she behaves when certain things happen. I would also, just before we link through to Jamie to see how she's doing, I know she's looking to go through to Arathusa today, just want to say that it is both Kirsten and Louise that are on directors this afternoon, and we shall have a fantastic day. With that, let's go and see how Jamie's doing on her way to Arathusa.
Good afternoon, and what Jamie's up to at the moment is actually trying to loop around a roadblock, very kindly planted there by some elephants. Oh, crunching and groaning. Okay, let's try that again with slightly better timing. Good afternoon, my name is Jamie, and I have Dave on camera with me this afternoon, and our lovely director from Final Control, Rebecca, has joined us on her afternoon off. And we are currently perusing the lands of Arathusa because word on the street, in this case a very sort of dirt-covered street without any sidewalks and relatively bushveld themed, word on the street is that the Mangheni pride, the pride that escaped me the other day, whilst around Sydney's dam. We just missed them. I hear tell that they are somewhere hanging about Arathusa. And that is our plans for the afternoon, whilst Dave, no, sorry, not whilst Dave, well, Dave shows you this lovely sky. That's what I was going to say, but I was going to say, while Sam spends a little bit more time with our much-beloved Queen of Juma, we're going to see what we can find around here. And of course, as most of you will know, on Arathusa, there is also always the chance of meeting Karula's daughter, Shadow, and quite possibly even, we'll all keep our fingers crossed because we still haven't seen her cubs. Her cubs a little bit younger than those of Karula, just over 2 months old from what we can tell, and they have been hidden about somewhere here. But let's keep our fingers crossed for exciting prospects on this afternoon sunset safari. Of course, talking of prospects, there is the possibility of being rained upon. There are some heavy-looking clouds looming above our heads. We've had some very welcome, somewhat unexpected rains over the last few hours. I certainly didn't expect it, and I watched through the window this morning whilst poor James and Sam and Dave, and who else was out on camera this morning? Was it? Oh, it was Jandre. Yeah. We're all out driving about in a wintry drizzle. I watched from the comfort of Kirsty's room whilst we watched a movie instead. But it looks as though it could be my turn at some point this afternoon. Poor Dave will have to have it the second time today. Dave says that's okay. He is much more stoic about such things. I don't know that I am that stoic about it, especially not in winter. But yes, we have arrived. It's my first time being on Arathusa since I have come back from leave, so I'm looking forward to investigating all the various wonderful roads that traverse this property. And while we do that, and while I try and get hold of some of the guides to find out where these lions are hiding out, let's go back to Sam and his lovely leopard.
So here we are still with our beautiful Queen Karula as she lies up in the tree. She is looking very, very relaxed. Very, very relaxed. But I'll tell you, this morning, it wasn't a very relaxing time. If anyone was with us, we saw Karula as she was walking through the thicket, and there was this sign of the hyena in the background. So it got quite intense while we were here. But then we noticed that she was okay when she jumped up the tree. You can't quite see the hyenas. They were causing her quite a bit of anxiety this morning. But then she climbed up this tree and she just relaxed for the afternoon. I don't think she'll be moving anywhere in any time because she looks very, very full and very tired. How's it, Debbie? Nice to hear from you. And you've just said that you see that she looks like she's got a watermelon in her stomach. Yes, she does have a rather large stomach. Look at the size of that stomach. It's unreal. It's almost like she looks like she's pregnant again. Obviously not. I'm just going to speak to James. He wants to speak to me on the radio. Go for Sam. James Henry, do you copy James? James, we're just below the marula tree where Karula is lying up. There's one hyena about 70 meters to the north of the tree. So I was just updating James with what's going on. Copy, James. I'll let you know when I'm not. Alright, so Karula's just up there. James might just make his way here a little bit later to have a look. But have a look at the clouds that are above us. Jamie was chatting to you a little bit earlier that it might rain. There's definitely that feeling that it might rain. We had quite a shower when we were at home now. So it was raining for a good hour, so the bush definitely received quite a little bit of water over the last 2-3 hours of today. And there's a beautiful sound of birds chattering away as we look upon the clouds in the distance and view Karula lying up in the tree. And I was just saying this morning, I couldn't believe how high she managed to get. That kill was hoisted for I mean, it must be about 5-6 meters high. And she must have grabbed that in her jaws and pulled that all the way up the tree and put that into the corner there. As you can see it there, you can just see the horns. So that is quite a feat from Karula. We did have the opportunity to watch her climb a little bit earlier, so she would have climbed up that and put the kill there. And as you can see there, it's a male impala. So we spoke about it this morning, but I'll say it again. These male impala are going through what we call the rutting season, and it was the new moon not a few days ago, probably about 3-4 days ago, and that's like the peak of the rutting season. So the male impalas aren't concentrating as much as they should be. Well, they're concentrating on getting the females together in their harems. So this is an opportunity for the predators such as lions, leopards, and wild dogs to take these male impalas. So you'll see quite a few male impalas that will be killed over this period. And there's the first of the victims that I've seen over this period. But sometimes you also find that during their fights in the bachelor herds of impala, they can kill each other with those horns. It's incredible to see how the bush responds to different things happening, with this kill that Karula's made. How the hyenas can pick it up for a long, long, long way. And I can tell you there's more than just the hyena that can smell that will be waiting in the peripheries here. So Andrea's just noted how tired and sleepy and peaceful she's looking in the tree here, and you're wondering what she might be dreaming about. Well, who's to know what she's dreaming about? Maybe she's dreaming about Bryan's cool thumb today, because he really does have a cool thumb as a jellyfish. But who knows what she'll be dreaming about? She could be dreaming about her next male impala in the next few days, or climbing the next big tree, or who knows, Andrew? Or she's just dreaming of being peaceful. So Ruth just asked a good question on how will the cubs feed on that kill that's on top of the tree now. Well, Ruth, the cubs had a really good feed. Just a few days ago, Bryan was here with James when they viewed the cubs, and they had quite a good feed on it. But what we've just seen of that kill is that there's not much left on it. There's probably 1/10 of the kill left, so it's most likely that she'll either finish what she can up there in the tree, and then leave it, jump back down, or something like the hyenas are close by. So those cubs, I doubt, will have any say in this kill. So that kill won't be eaten by the cubs anymore, unless those hyenas run away or something. But that's probably the end of it for them. Lady Lone Wolf has asked an interesting question around how long can cubs last for without getting fed from their mothers. It's a very, very good question, and I wouldn't be able to give you an exact day, but I'm sure it's not very many days, so they need the support of their mothers pretty much at least every second to third day, I would imagine. So they probably wouldn't do well over a week because they still haven't learnt how to kill and do all the very important things that leopards can do. But it's incredible, you know. Of course, every single individual leopard is different to the other. And I once witnessed a leopard at the age of just a couple of months. So these leopard cubs are just a few months, and I watched, I think it was like a 7-8 month-old leopard who lost its mother to a fight, and he was able to grow up and be independent just after 7 months. So every single situation is very, 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 very different. But Karula's an exceptional hunter, and she's done very well. So she would be teaching her youngsters from an early age all the important lessons that life needs for them in order to survive. But we've had a very cool sighting of just looking at her with a thick belly and seeing how she can climb up trees. We're not going to go anywhere for now. We're going to see if something might unravel while we're here. In the meantime, let's go and see how Jamie's doing with one of the largest animals.
I have arrived at Red Dam, a place that is relatively familiar to most of our regular WildEarth viewers. And there's plenty of water, which has come as a pleasant surprise to me. I was actually sort of expecting it to be dry. And currently occupied by one Duggar boy, a male buffalo, enjoying the relative sheltered nature of this particular spot that he has found. And then in front of him, a blacksmith lapwing, having a quick drink. Now, I didn't just want to drag you away from Karula for the buffalo. There was actually a greenbacked heron, which I really thought might be a new bird for some of you to add to your bird list. But unfortunately, as birds do with our live wildlife filming, given their ability to escape it relatively quickly, our green-backed heron disappeared. Let's just be one that we will have to wait for, because I thought it might be a new bird for some of you to add to your lists. Now, as the buffalo takes shelter from the chilly breeze and the grey clouds loom overhead, Debbie, watching in Vancouver, who I imagine would be fairly familiar with this kind of sky. Debbie, will get back to your question. Karula is up and running, so let's see what she's up to.
And we are back with Karula. She's up from that position where she was lying down. She may very well get back into a position to lie down, or she's going to go to that kill. It looked like for a second that she might climb down the tree. Got the sound of a woodpecker. Sounds like just as she walks over the tree. There we go. So the kill's just there. There goes the queen Karula. Looks like she's going to still feed on this kill what she can. Ooh, she's going past the kill. She's going up above the tree line. This is very interesting. Maybe she wants to get a little bit of a vantage point. What is she going to do? Just going to move it a little bit forward. Right, now she's coming back. I think she might have been thinking. She's now moving back towards, or it looks like she's getting to a position where she's going to sleep again. I'm just going to chat to James quickly. James, have you copy? She just got up and walked to the other side of the tree. I'm happy to make it a 2-vehicle sighting. If you make your way here, you'll be able to see that she's quite clearly up in the tree, so you can still sit from a distance and view her. Okay, so let's just go a little bit forward. Let's make sure. How cool is that to see her climbing in the tree like that? While we get into a better position, we might be able to see the hyenas this time. I just saw the one's head pop out. Let's go to Jamie quickly while we get into a much better position.
While Sam repositions, it gives us the opportunity to answer Debbie in Vancouver's question that we started, but then Karula got up and moving along the branches of the tree. So Debbie would like to know, since we do have these dark and ominous clouds building overhead, whether or not I have the incredibly attractive blue poncho with me. And Debbie, we are in luck, for yes, I have the attractive blue poncho, currently wrapped up in its attractive blue all-purpose bag. We'll pop that back down again. Now, Debbie, of course, possibly stretching the truth a little bit when she says that it is an attractive blue poncho, for it looks sort of a little bit like if I stood up with that poncho on, I could probably, and put the car in neutral, we could probably sail the car along with a healthy wind. It is interestingly large upon my somewhat smaller than average frame. So yes, I do have it. You'll have to wait and see if it decides to rain, whether or not I'm going to break it out. This gentleman seems to think it's going to. I don't know what your view's like there, Dave. You got him. Hey, let's try and get there he is. It's about as good as it's going to get. Just like our buffalo friend from earlier, an impala sheltering from the chilliness of the weather. Shame. And I often wonder how they feel when in midwinter we get these drizzles. So it's not even like it's a relief from the heat. It's just, we're just going to stand around being a bit cold and damp. He seems happy enough, though. Taking a break from furiously rutting to allow some time for ruminating on life and on grass. Now, I just heard a male impala earlier sprinting around the clearing. Now, over the last few weeks, I think it was something that, it's an idea that Brent came up with, but that we've utilized since, and that is to get the viewers from around the world to send us their best imitations of an impala rutting sound. I think that that's what I'm going to encourage you to do today. It's one of the most bizarre sounds. Most of you watching the Djuma Dam or the Arathusa Dam camera will be very familiar with it over the last few days. So send through your best impala rutting impressions on hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or you can, you can't really email. I suppose you could, in theory, email it through to questions@wildearth.tv. But I think the best way to do it would be on Twitter, because then you get to share it with everybody else around you and the general public. And let's see how much we can all embarrass ourselves for the purposes of imitating male impala. I will do it. I promise I will do it. I'm not going to do it yet, though. I want to see if any of you can get the ball rolling. I also want to see if maybe we can get an impala that's actually making the sound. We heard one as we were driving up towards Red Dam, so they are around and about. Just by the way, the reason that I haven't gone straight to the lions is I actually have no idea where they are, and nobody's out on game drive yet except for us. So I'm just sort of following my nose, looking for tracks, and I'll get that update from the other guides once they do go out on game drive. So I'm not avoiding them, I promise. Aaron, watching all the way in New Zealand. A warm welcome as always. Aaron would like to know if I could find him a slender mongoose. Can I find you one? Yes, absolutely, I'm sure I can. Can I manage to put one on camera? I will do my utmost. I've only succeeded twice with really good slender mongoose sightings. One time was where the slender mongoose disappeared, and I actually called it out using some mongoose contact calls, and it popped its head out curiously. So the slender mongoose, a solitary mongoose, you only really see them on their own, sometimes in pairs, but mainly on their own, is a lot more shy than their dwarf mongoose cousins, and they tend to disappear as soon as we've seen them. Aaron, if I had to guess, I would say that I probably see about 2 slender mongoose per drive at some point or another, usually dashing away in front of me and into a hole or into a log. But we'll focus. What do you think, Dave? We can do it. We accept your challenge, Aaron. We shall do our utmost to put a slender mongoose on camera for you. The other mongoose species, of course, that we're always keen to get is the banded mongoose, which is also a little bit more tricky. But nevertheless, they are hiding here somewhere, and Aaron, we shall see if we can find them for you, along, of course, with the lions. While we do that, Sam is repositioned for another view of Karula. Let's have a look at a different perspective.
So Karula has repositioned herself in the tree. As you can see, she looks maybe just a little bit more comfortable as she lies there. Got a nice, much better position to view the beauty of Karula from this angle. There's also a good sighting of the kill. You can quite clearly see that it's pretty much nothing left of this kill from this angle. Have a look at that. So she's eaten pretty much the whole thing. It's just the top upper parts of the body left. Otherwise it's pretty much just fur going all the way down. So the hyenas, who are not far away, are just sniffing and waiting in the periphery for her to drop that kill. But we can get a real good look at her paw here. Have a look at a leopard paw. So that is a beautiful shot of a female leopard's paw. You can quite clearly see the 3 indentations in the back, or lobes. So when you go tracking, you look for those 3 things at the back. 3 lobes. Look at her whiskers. Nice, beautiful white whiskers and eyebrows. Stunning. And as we know, we tell the difference between leopards by looking at their spot patterns on the top. So just to the left of those 3 stripes by her nose there, there's some dots you'll see above, and those will be the indication to which leopard we can see. She looks very, very peaceful in the tree. It's interesting what Debbie said earlier about how she reacted when she lost her cubs last year. How she became very anxious and unsettled. She's looking very relaxed in the tree. Here we have another good look at that paw. Isn't that beautiful? To see that on the road when you wake up. Have your morning coffee and you go tracking and you find that footprint in the sand. It's always a very, very exciting feeling. As you can see, she's hanging from the tree quite clearly, and the look of those legs and that tail hanging from the tree when you go looking for a leopard in the bush is one of the most exciting things. When you just look up a tree and you just see this tail hanging, you know it's a leopard. It looks like she's giving herself a little stretch there. But just to give you another reading of this site, there is a hyena about 70 meters still, so there's 2 of them. Good afternoon, Glenwood Elementary, Mrs. Long and Mrs. Altman. To our safari here in the bush for you children. We are looking at a female leopard that is currently lying up in a tree. We've got 2 other hyenas that are lying in the thicket here. We can't quite see them at the moment. And this is the same female leopard that has 2 cubs. And those cubs are most likely lying up in the thicket somewhere, quite far away from here, not too far away from their mother. And it's been an interesting afternoon so far, and she's lying. She's eaten most of the kill, so when we go back up there, I'll show you the kill that she's eaten, which is an impala ram. You'll see those big horns on top of her, well, its head. It's a male ram. So let's have a look up at the kill, up at Karula, and then the kill that she has in the tree. There she is. So that is a female leopard. And to the right of her that you'll see hanging in the tree is the remains of an impala ram. And you can tell that it's a male because of those horns that are on top of its head. And she has climbed quite a tree to be able to get up there. If we have a look at the whole tree, we'll see that she would have had to carry that impala in between her jaws and pull it up all the way to the top of that tree there. As you can see, that is not an easy thing to do. And this is what's so incredible about leopards, is they have very, very strong forearms and neck. And they are able to pull up carcasses of animals, up trees, which makes them very, very different to some of the other cat species. So while we sit here and just view Karula having a little sleep in the tree here next to her kill, let's go and see how our other presenter out here, Jamie's, doing. We'll see you just now.
Hello and welcome to the Glenwood class of Miss Long and Mrs. Altman. You've just been enjoying an incredible sighting with a leopard and a hyena. And we're currently sitting with one of my favorite little animals out here, an animal called a dwarf mongoose. Tiny, tiny little creature. It's about the size of a big rat. It moves in a very similar way, but it's not a rat. It's related to meerkats, like Timon in The Lion King. That is what this little mongoose is related to, or that's who this little mongoose is related to, but much, much smaller. They are rushing about, seeing if they can catch any insects. But hello, my name is Jamie, just to introduce myself. And behind me, operating the camera and showing you all of these incredible images, is Dave. And what Dave is basically doing is he's showing you where to look on this. But I want you to just imagine that you're sitting on the back of the vehicle with us, because what you're seeing on your screen is actually happening in real life, right here in the middle of South Africa. Sorry, I choked on my own spit there. And unfortunately, our little mongoose have run away very, very quickly. There's only a few of them still hiding away, digging through the leaves and looking for scorpions and other insects, but they do move very, very quickly. Parker, you were wondering about how fast a cheetah can run, and of course you've been sitting with a leopard with Sam, a different type of spotted cat, but a cheetah, Parker, can run up to 70 miles per hour. That's about as fast, that's possibly even faster than you would drive on a big motorway. So they can run incredibly quickly. But the amazing thing about the cheetah is that they actually cannot run that fast for too long. It's only for a few seconds that they can stay running that quickly, like a top Olympic sprinter. Look at this little guy. Isn't he adorable? He or she, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, sitting on top of its home, running along off to join the rest of his family. Now, Chase, you were wondering about the temperature here, and of course, for us, we're currently going into winter, whereas you guys are starting to go into spring, into summer. But Chase, it is 22 degrees in centigrade. That's how we sort of talk about temperatures, but that is 70 in Fahrenheit. So actually not too cold for it to be midwinter. And we've actually, for us, winter is when it hardly ever rains. So today's come as a bit of a surprise because the clouds have descended and they have brought with it some rain. Lovely, unexpected weather because we've been in a drought. So Chase, you were wondering about, well then, why do you have opposite seasons to where we are? Now, Chase, when we're finished with our safari, I'm sure that your teachers will show you sort of where you are on a map. But basically, to sort of sum up the geography of it, you know how the globe works. So the world is nice and round, basically. And the Earth is kind of tilted on an axis. You know what, Chase? I've got a better idea. Hold on 1 second. Dave, if anything changes, you'll just tell me if you need to go back to Sam.
I will do.
Thank you very much. I've got a better idea. Let's try and do it this way. This is something that a friend of mine once tried, and it works quite well. Okay. I know this is a bit tricky to imagine, but try and imagine this ball of elephant poo that I'm holding at the moment is round. And try and make it a bit rounder. So imagine that this is the Earth. So Chase, we are here, down all the way down here. Let's pretend this is South Africa. I'm going to stick it there. This is a bizarre way of showing it. And you guys are all the way around the other side over here where this stick is. Kind of. Can you sort of picture what I'm trying to say? And the Earth is tilted at an angle. So my hand is the sun, and this elephant poo is the Earth, and this is definitely a more complicated way of explaining it than I intended. But as it turns around the Earth, sometimes we're a little bit closer to the sun, and that's during our summer months. But then, when the Earth goes all the way around the sun, sometimes you guys in your northern hemisphere, because of the tilt, are a bit closer to the sun. So you have summer when we have winter, and we have winter when you have summer. And I'm going to return that elephant dung back to where it came from. Oh, and since we're here, we know it's elephant dung. Probably should have a look at it. We know it's elephant poo, because it's got lots of grass and sticks, but it's old elephant poo, because look what's in here. Can you see them crawling about there, Dave?
Yes.
Termites. You guys, have you ever heard of termites where you are? Termites eating the wood. In this case, these little termites that have been scurrying about are eating parts of the elephant dung. So lots of leaves, lots of grass and twigs, and it's quite a big poo. It's definitely too big for it to be anything else but something the size of an elephant. All right, back across to Sam and his lovely leopard.
Karula, the female leopard, is still lying up in the tree. And I thought, now that you guys are here with us, let's have a look at that track. Have a look at her foot there. Rashika, you would like to know how long leopards live for. Leopards, of course, will have very, very different lives depending on how well they are brought up. But they can live up from 10 to 20 years. Have a look at the pad of that leopard. So when you go tracking, you come to Africa, have a look for that track in the sand. That'll help you tell that is a leopard out here. It's very similar to that of a lion. Lions are much bigger. Elena's asking, why do they sleep in trees? Elena, They sleep in trees purely because it's much more safe for them to be up in a tree than down below. As you can see, their kill, Karula's kill's just to the right of her there, and she's able to hoist her kills up here and keep it safe and eat it without being bothered by other animals. So if she was below here, she would be irritated by other animals such as vultures or mainly hyena. So there's a hyena that's not far away from here. There's 2 hyenas that are actually lying up in the thicket here. So it's to her benefit to bring that impala, which is that kill in the tree, and eat it up in the tree. Chase would like to know why the big cats have pads on their paws. Well, I mean, that's what they walk on all the time, every day. So you can imagine it needs to be a little bit more coarse than the rest of their body, and it helps them protect them from any thorns that they might step on. So the pad is like a little bit of a protective layer for the feet as it walks through the thickets here in the bush. A little bit later, I'll show you some of the big thorns that we have on the trees around here. But you can see, have a look at the leopard. It's a rosette. So a cheetah has spots, and have a look at the rosette on this leopard. Very, very different to the pattern of a cheetah. So I just got a question asking, what do hyenas, Ava would like to know what hyenas will eat. So hyenas are both opportunistic hunters as well as scavengers. So much like we'll have a look, she's rubbing her head on the tree there. I'm not sure why she'd be doing that. But hyenas quickly are opportunistic hunters. So sometimes when they're together in big groups, they can take down some of the bigger trees. Have a listen to those birds that are making quite a racket around here, around Karula. They're making quite a noise. But just going back to the hyenas, they also will find kills that are from a leopard. So just to the right here with that kill there is something that the hyenas will try to get to if they can. And that's why there are 2 hyenas that are actually hiding in the thicket, not far away from here. So that's a good question, Ava. There's the kill to the right. Parker would like to know, how wide is a leopard? Well, Parker, it's fairly wide. It's probably about 2 foot wide, 1 foot wide. It's probably around 1 to 2 foot wide. Maybe quite similar to that of a greyhound dog. Quite similar to that. Not much different. But they are fairly big. So the biggest cat that we get out here is the lion. So hopefully we can see a lion today. If you stay with us the whole day on our show. This here is a leopard, and we don't often find leopards, so we're very lucky this afternoon. Robert would like to know, what are the other animals that live in South Africa? Well, this is just... Ooh. What is Karula doing? So the other animals that live out here, well, we get all sorts. We get elephants, and we get rhinos, and we get warthogs, and we get impalas, which is a antelope, which you get to the right there, quite similar to your deers in America. And if you want to have a quick look at what an elephant might look like, have a look at Elvis the Early over here. So while we do that, this is much like another animal that we get out here in the bush. It's called an elephant. And we've lost one of the horns to our elephants. No, not horns, tusks. So they are tusks. So they get 2 tusks that come out there. And that's our elephant. And we've also got Mr. Thumb here. So say hello to Bryan, our cameraman's thumb. He is a very stoked, happy-looking jellyfish. How happy is that jellyfish? So, Rishika would like to know, how do elephants grow such long trunks? Well, Rishika, those trunks have been evolved over millions of years to do the functions that they do. So that trunk, as it goes into the thickets, will wrap the trunk around the branches and break the branches off the trees, and then they feed it in their mouths. So the trunks have not only allowed them to drink water more efficiently, but also to get up the trees and break branches so that they can then eat. Isn't that amazing? It's beautiful. Hopefully we can show you an elephant a little bit later, but while we're sitting with a leopard, Michelle would like to know how fast a leopard can run. So it's not our fastest cat that we get out here. The fastest cat we get is the cheetah, which will run at about 100 miles an hour. So I think a leopard could probably get about 20 miles less than that. So probably around 70 to 80 miles an hour. I would say that a leopard could run at any moment if it wanted to quickly run. But it's not built for speed, as you can see. It's built for power. The cheetah is built for power. The cheetah, is built for speed. The leopard, however, is built for power, to be able to pull those big carcasses which are the kills, up the trees. Have a look at that tail. That's a beautiful spotty tail that the leopard has. So we've just had a very cool time here with Karula in the tree. And we are now going to go and see if we can find other animals in the bush, such as an elephant and any birds. Hopefully we can get some birds for you this afternoon. But for the time being, let's go and see how Jamie's doing, who's our other co-pilot in the bush this afternoon. We'll see you just now.
Well, I've just spotted a tree that I wanted to show you and to talk to you about. It's a tree called a silver cluster leaf tree. And it's a very, very special type of tree. And I'm going to jump out and I'm going to grab a leaf to show you. And I'll explain to you why it is so special. Now, of course, it's very important to remember not to eat anything or to try anything if you don't know what it is, because there's always a chance that a plant might be poisonous. But in this case, this special plant has a very, very interesting property. Now, this is why it's called a silver cluster leaf, because the underside is covered in really, really silver hairs, and it's a way of basically looking after the plant, making sure that it doesn't lose too much water to the hot, hot sun, especially in summer in South Africa, where our temperatures can go well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and taste this leaf. I'm going to describe what happens to my mouth when I do. And Dave, would you like to join me in this adventure? Here you go. I'm going to give one to Dave. And give a good chew. And Dave, I hope you have some water. Dave is pulling a serious face. I'm going to get back into the car and I'm going to tell you why we're pulling such funny faces. Sorry, Dave, I should have warned you. That's okay. You've got to try it once. Your tongue's gone bright green. Is my tongue green?
A little bit.
So that silver cluster leaf tree takes away all of the spit in your mouth when you chew the leaves. And it can be quite a good cure in the bush, because remember, a lot of medicines come from plants. So that particular type of plant is actually a really good cure if you find yourself with an upset stomach. So if you find you've got a bit of a runny tummy, eating a few of those leaves will actually help. And this is something that the animals out here know, and they will specifically eat. And baby elephants, when they're growing their teeth, and how many of you are losing teeth at the moment and growing your adult teeth, your permanent teeth? Sometimes the baby elephants will chew on it to get rid of that pain. So Ramaya, you were wondering about what do elephants eat? And the answer is grass. They eat lots and lots of different trees. One of their favorite trees is like the one that's right in front of us. A big knobthorn tree that we're going to go past. And you know what? We might even see some elephants while we're here. Whoa, everybody hold on. It's a bit bumpy here. Nathan would like to know, why do elephants make such big poops? And the answer is, they make such big poops because they are very, very big animals. But it's not just that. It's also the fact that an elephant's digestive system, they eat so much in the way of plants, but they cannot actually digest all of it. Sorry, I just need to turn down the other voices in my ear. So they cannot fully digest all of the food. So you know how people tell you to eat your salads? You've got to eat your greens and you've got to eat your salads to keep your digestive system working nice and smoothly. Well, elephants eat a lot of salad. So one adult elephant can eat easily close to 500 pounds of food a day. Imagine having to eat 500 pounds of food in one day. But an elephant will also poop about 200 pounds of poop a day. So it doesn't digest all of the food that it eats, but it's such a big animal that it needs to eat pretty much all day. Like imagine if you had to walk around and eat all the time. Just keep eating. Walk around and eat all the time. Just keep eating. Now, Robert, on the subject of elephants and the chewing that they do, you're interested in their teeth, but a very special type of tooth called a tusk. And that goes, the canines, those are actually like our canine teeth that extend all the way outwards from their mouth. And you wanted to know, Robert, why they have tusks. And they use them for fighting, they can use them for protecting themselves and their babies, and they can also use them for scraping away at tree bark or digging for roots that they might want to eat. And what I'll try and do for you, Robert, is I'll show you an example of where an elephant has used its tusks to scrape away the bark. And sometimes we're even lucky enough to see that happening. Let's see if we can't spot. You can see lots and lots of places where elephants have pushed down the trees. Like this tree is being pushed down by an elephant. See? And that's a huge tree. So apparently a lot of you have lost some teeth before. So you know what I'm talking about. You know when you get that itchy, sore feeling around your gums as a place that you want to sort of chew it and touch it because it's kind of irritating, but it's kind of sore? Well, that happens to baby elephants too. And that's why they go and they chew that plant, because it takes away the pain from where their teeth are growing up. So baby elephants know how to treat tooth pain. Dave, you don't want any more of that plant, do you?
No, thanks.
No, Dave doesn't want any more. I don't want any more. In fact, I think I need some water. And Chase, while I look for some of our largest animals, you wanted to know why are elephants so big? And the answer is, I don't know. That's just how they have grown to be. That's how they've evolved to be. They've grown to be so big, it means that none of the big predators out here can really hunt them. It's very unusual for a lion to hunt an elephant. And so they're protected by their big, big size. It also means that they live for a very long time, up to 60 years, almost as old as a human being. So while I look for elephants and other magical things in the African bush, let's head back over to Sam, who has found a different antelope species.
So we have just spent some time with a beautiful leopard, and you wanted to see some other animals. So we've just found some young waterbuck. So there's a female waterbuck, so a mom and its young over there, and we can tell it's a waterbuck purely because of that big round circle on the bum there. That is how I tell the difference, well, that's how I began learning the waterbuck here. And the waterbuck gets its name because it likes to be close to water at all times. So that circle on the back of its bum will help followers. So when they're walking through the bush here, both the mom, the daddy, and the youngster all have those circles, and that will help them as they move through the bush here. So very similar to what we saw at the kill with the Karula, we saw a antelope that was up on the tree. This is a different antelope. It's not the same one. The other one was called an impala. This one over here, as I said, is a waterbuck. So both are antelope, but are quite different. And they are so beautiful. Don't you think they're beautiful? Nice big ears. Those ears will help them listen for any of the creatures that might be out there at night time. As you can imagine, the leopard and the lion both like to eat this type of food. So they need to have big ears in order to listen to all the different sounds that are happening out there in the bush. And this is a very young waterbuck, so we're so lucky to see that. There's a male. Look at the size of the horns of a male waterbuck that's walking through here now. Wow. Nate, there are many, many different types of plants out here in Africa. Wasn't that a beautiful male waterbuck over there? And as you can see, there's all different types of species here. We get from knob thorns to leadwoods to all the different types. And I'll show you some of the ones that have thorns on them. Some of them don't have thorns on them. Some of them have berries on them, like the magic worry bush. And they all serve different roles, as some of them can't be eaten, as you would have seen Jamie eating one of the plants here, which was a silver cluster leaf, and that has a very chemical component to that. So when someone eats the silver cluster leaf, or when an animal tries to eat a silver cluster leaf, it's really dry in their mouths, so they don't like to eat it, and that's a defense system of a plant. Rashika, that's a good question. You want to know how long will the waterbuck live? As I said earlier, with leopards as well, every single life will have its own kind of dependency, but we can only have a kind of guesstimate, or we can guess around the sort of ages they live up to. And most antelope will live up to 10 years, so probably around 10 years life expectancy for most of the antelope out here in the bush. Yeah, they're getting predated on by all types of predators here, such as the lion, the leopard, the wild dogs, and the wild dogs are a very, very beautiful dog out here that hunt in packs. Jamie has got a very cool bird. We spoke about hyenas a bit earlier. Let's talk about what she might be saying now and how it is related.
Here is a different type of scavenger, so not a hyena, but a white-backed vulture. Now, I'm sure a lot of you think of vultures as being a little bit dirty and kind of gross, just like hyenas, because they feed off old rotten carcasses, old rotten animals that have died. But the truth is, these guys are so important in terms of cleaning up the bushveld. They're basically like the disposal men who come around with garbage trucks, or like a landfill. They get rid of all of the bush's rubbish in this area. So they actually serve a really, really important purpose, because if those carcasses were just left around, then diseases like bacteria could spread very quickly, because the bacteria would have lots to eat. But luckily for us, the vultures come along and they eat them and get rid of most of that nasty stuff. A vulture, just like a hyena, has really, really strong stomach acid, so they don't get food poisoning. If we had to eat what a vulture eats, we would get really, really sick. But the vultures don't get sick at all. They're absolutely fine. One of the things that they do have, though, is a bald head, so that they don't have too many feathers around that could get dirty when they stick their head into something like a dead buffalo. Vultures are also actually quite clean. So as soon as they've fed off a carcass, then they go and they wash themselves in a dam or in a river. There you go, he's busy cleaning his feathers. So the question is, why is this vulture sitting on the dead tree? And the answer is because today there's no sun, it's cold. So they can't use the hot air currents to soar. And Rashida, you were wondering about how many different colors a vulture can be. Sure. I've never thought about that before. That's a really, really good question. And the answer is it can be lots. They're not bright-colored birds, so it's not like the really pretty hummingbirds that you might see where you are or any of those other species. It's mostly grey. Most vultures are kind of grey. Some of them have white heads. A lot of the different types of vultures have reddish heads because they don't have any feathers around the skin, and the skin is a sort of pinky color. But that's pretty much it. Grey, brown, white, with a bit of red thrown in. I said that he's sitting on the tree because there's no warm air currents. Justin, you were wondering about how vultures fly. So he could fly away if he wants to by flapping his wings, just like most of the other birds in the world. But he's a very, very heavy bird with long, long wings. So what a vulture prefers to do is to get really high up, sometimes as high up as a big plane might do when it goes to visit another country or another state. So they'll fly right up high into the sky. And because within our atmosphere there's lots of different air currents, a vulture with his long wings, and if you stretch your arms out, everybody stretch your arms out, okay? Look from one side of your fingertips to the other. I'm doing it now. Dave can't because he has to operate the camera. You see how wide I'm stretching my arms? That's not as big as a vulture's wings, okay? So now join hands, if you can, with a person next to you, and both of you stretch out your arms. I can't do it here, but imagine. So hold somebody's hand and stretch out your arms. That's how long almost how long a vulture's wingspan is. So they've got really, really long wings. And what they do is they use those with the air currents pushing up under them, so they don't have to flap all the time. They can just stretch out and use the wind and soar like that. So that's how our vultures fly. And they've got really good eyesight. Basically, a vulture flies around with eyes that are basically like binoculars. So a vulture's flying around with his eyes with binoculars, soaring about and looking down at the ground for different types of prey. Now, Chase, you were wondering, why does a vulture feed on dead prey? It's interesting. So a vulture feeds on dead prey because there are lots and lots of other birds that are adapted to hunting. Now, we've spoken about how big and bulky a vulture is. A vulture just isn't fast enough. The way that he has evolved, the way that his body shape is, vulture isn't fast enough to catch something like a snake or rodents or anything like that, things like buzzards or, for you guys, the bald eagle, anything like that is able to catch. A vulture's just too big and bulky, can't change direction quickly. He needs to rely on air currents. So he or she is adapted to looking for different carcasses on the ground and then just going right down, and you must see a vulture land. It's very clumsy, lots of flapping, and then they kind of hit the tree. And that's why vultures like to rest in dead trees and not live trees, because otherwise they get all tangled up in the leaves because they're such big birds. So that's why vultures feed off carcasses. Now, Nate, we've spoken about different types of vultures. You were wondering how many different kinds there are in Africa. Well, in this area alone, we've got 4 main species. We get the lappet-faced vulture, the biggest one, big strong beak for opening up a dead body. And then we've got the white-backed and the Cape vultures with their big wingspans, slightly smaller. We hardly ever see Cape vultures. And then we get the hooded vulture. Now, the hooded vulture is known as the toothpick or the dental floss of the vulture world, because he or she's got a tiny, tiny little beak, and they peck in between the bones. They get all the little bits of meat that the other vultures cannot get. Then you also get a very, very endangered vulture species called a white-headed vulture. I've hardly ever seen them. And once there was an Egyptian vulture that came to visit the Kruger National Park about 3 years ago, which is where we are. We're in the greater Kruger National Park area. And this vulture came to visit, and people came from all over South Africa. People booked plane tickets to come to the Kruger National Park to see this Egyptian vulture. There's lots and lots of them about. I mean, there's not that many of them about, but lots of different types of vultures. There's also a type of vultures, can't speak today, a type of vulture called a bearded vulture, or a lammergeier. Devon, you were wondering how long a vulture lives, and I have to be completely honest, I'm not sure. I think that a vulture would live for a very, very long time, and by that I mean probably close to or over 10 years, but I have to tell you I don't, and it's a really important thing to be able to say that you don't know. Let's see if we can have a different view of him from another side, a different angle. Now, Sheeta, you were wondering, why does a vulture have such big wings? And the answer is because it's a great way of soaring. So the bigger the wings, the more air it can lift up the vulture, and the less energy the vulture has to use to flap and to stay up in the air. That is the answer to why vultures have such big wings. Let's go back over to Sam and see what he's doing now.
So you are back on board with Bryan, Sam, the Thumb, and Elvis the Ellie, and we are in search of lions this afternoon. We're going to see if we can find you some lions. We are currently a little bit, well, we were told that there were lions not far away from here, so what we can tell here, there's quite a lot of damage to the land here. There's a lot of tracks, and there's a lot of dung on the floor here. So what looks like what happened here was a big group of buffalo, large herd of buffalo that could be walking down towards the watering hole. So we're going to go and have a look there. Potentially there'll be some buffalo down there, maybe some elephants, and hopefully some lions. We've just seen the other predator, which is Karula, who was a leopard, and now we would love to go and see a lion. Nate would like to know, are some of the fruits on the trees around here poisonous? Yes, Nate, you'll find that there are some poisonous fruits as well as seeds out here in the bush. Of course, with everything out here, you'll have to do your research on whether it's okay to eat or not. I generally stick to the ones that I know, which is the white berry bush, which is very, very nice. We've actually had a few that came ripe just now, and they're pretty much gone now. Otherwise, we get a guarri, a fruit from a guarri bush, which maybe we'll have a look at a bit later. But there are most definitely some ones that are poisonous and that you must be careful of. Christian, you would like to know how big a hyena is. Christian, we chatted a little bit earlier about how a greyhound is quite similar to that of a leopard. You know, it's not going to be that much bigger, but if you can imagine, a hyena has a much larger back body. So the back of the body is quite big, quite round. So probably like, I would say like a really big bulldog. What would you say, Bryan? Big bulldog?
Or a Rottweiler.
Or a Rottweiler. That's perfect. Well done, Bryan. A Rottweiler. That's very, very similar to that of a hyena. All right, so we're not far away from the watering holes here. Ava, you would like to know how many miles do cheetah run? Ava, it's all very dependent on what they're trying to kill. Of course, they're going to be very efficient with their energy. So they don't have lots of energy. We've got ellie tracks all over the road here, so we might very well be coming across an ellie just now. You can't really see the tracks from here, so it's not worth showing. But we'll see if we can find an elephant. Robert would like to know, what do lions eat? Well, Robert, lions will eat all sorts of animals, from a zebra to a wildebeest to, I mean, they'll even kill a leopard if they can. If they can kill a leopard, they will. They wouldn't necessarily like to eat a leopard. I mean, there has been cases where lions will eat leopard, but generally they'll eat the plains game, which is the antelope, the zebra, the wildebeest, giraffe. That's the kind of things that a lion likes to eat. So we're not far away from this watering hole. I'm looking everywhere to see if I can find something that might be moving through the bushes. And it's important when you come through here to listen to everything that might be happening, to the sound of birds. A bird can tell you if there is an animal around here. There's a bird called the red-billed oxpecker that makes a very specific sound. And if you listen to that sound, it can tell you that there is a buffalo. And if you don't know what a buffalo is a very, very big looking cow. Almost like a cow, but a bit bigger, and it's got very, very big horns. So one must be very careful of the buffalo when walking in the bush, as well as the elephant. Ooh. Michelle would like to know how big a buffalo is. So it's probably about 1 to 2 tons. It's probably how heavy it is. So I hope that helps you. I mean, just think about a cow. Have a look at a cow. Look at the size of a cow, and try and imagine a much bigger cow. And that, not much bigger, probably a little bit bigger. Probably 1/3 the size bigger than a cow. Oh yes, so we had a question earlier about how quick the cheetah runs and how quick the lions run. So that, going back to that quick question about how the cheetah running, the cheetah will only run when it needs to. So when it's going to try and kill something, that's when a cheetah will look after its energy and kill something. With a lion, you often don't find lion running also unless they're trying to kill something. I myself have never seen a lion running. I mostly just see a lion. We've got some crested francolin over here. Beautiful little ground nesting birds. That's making all that noise. There they go into the thicket. That's a crested francolin. You can call it a crested francolin because it has a little white crest above its eye there. And there are quite a few animals that like to eat the crested francolin. But they're also an indicator. If they do see lions out here, they will make a very, very large racket, or a leopard. And that is sometimes an indicator to whether there's a predator in the area. I'm not sure why this crested francolin is making such a noise. Ava would like to know why monkeys climb trees a lot. Well, Ava, monkeys have evolved over time to climb trees in order to sleep. They like to sleep up on top of the trees at night time. It's a safety thing for them. And also they can collect food up on the trees, and they can see their predators when they climb the trees. So they've just evolved over time to climb the trees, as it has helped them to survive to this age. So that is mainly why the monkeys will climb the trees. There's also baboons here, which are very, very similar to that. Similar to that of a monkey. Just trying to work our way around to the dam here. John Muir would like to know, can birds stay up during the daylight? They very well can. Have a look at the elephant dung here. So that's going to tell us that there might be an elephant around. Hopefully there is. I see tracks on the floor. I see elephant dung here. We're going to go around this corner and we're going to see what we can find. But there are birds that like to be here at night time, which are the nocturnal birds, and you get the birds that are here, diurnal, daytime birds. But for now, we're going to creep around here and see if we can find an animal. In the time being, let's go see how Jamie's doing.
I'm also at a dam, and I've actually found you something really, really exciting. You know what animal loves to live in water, and that is a hippopotamus. But at the moment, there's actually a little baby hippopotamus walking outside of the dam, busy grazing around the edges. How amazing is that? That's a tiny, tiny little baby. I know it's hard for you to see because it's far away, but that is a tiny baby hippopotamus. And because it is so dry, it's needing to come out for a little bit of extra grass. Unfortunately, I hear that the Glenwood class of Miss Long and Mrs. Altman, apparently you guys have to go about. The rest of the school day awaits you. So I'm going to say goodbye from myself and also goodbye from Sam. And I hope that you have a wonderful school day for the rest of your day and that you enjoy the rest of your time. Thank you for joining us, and bye-bye. Okay, so back to our standard sunset safari. We've got a hippo at Arathusa Dam as well as a jacana wandering about at the back there. I'm sure that this little hippo is very used to vehicles, seeing as it has grown up around the Arathusa Dam. So let us actually try, whilst all the guests are out, to go and get a little bit closer. Let's creep up a little bit closer. Obviously, I'm not going to scare it. If I see any signs of it looking a little bit scared, then we'll back off and let it enjoy its time, because it is separate from Mom. But we'll just go along the edge of the dam wall. That gives us plenty of space from it, but also allows us to view it from a little bit of a closer distance. I hope you remembered the challenge to send through your impressions of the rutting impala. Dave and myself have been trying. So far, we sound a little bit like strangled geese, I think might be the best way to describe. Certainly I do. Dave, I don't mean to insult your impressions, but they were equally as bad. They were just as bad. But we're practicing. I hope you're all practicing at home. I really do apologize for those of you who are sending through questions. I'm not ignoring your name. It's just that at the moment, for some reason in this particular area, I'm really struggling to hear your questions coming through. Now, I did get the question. I just don't know exactly who it's from. You were wondering if I have ever been attacked. Oh, hold on. Kimmy, you were wondering. I think it's Kimmy. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There's so much static I can barely hear, but you were wondering if I've ever been attacked on a drive. Attacked, no. I've always been fortunate enough. I've never had my car charged or hit by anything. I have been chased by things. I've been chased by elephants before. I've been chased by a hippo before. And I've had one or two showdowns with some large pachyderms of the non-elephant variety. Let's have a look at this hippo from here, just because we've got a nice view and I want the baby to feel nice and relaxed with us. Shame. Is that a big gash that she's got at the back there? Or is that just sort of dam scum? Kimmy, I'll get back to your question. I haven't sort of fully finished answering that. I will get back to you. This hippo bearing plenty of healed up scars and scrapes and scratches. I said she because I'd sort of assumed that it was the young hippo's mom, just because it seems to be the only other hippo in this dam. But it could well be a male. Unfortunately, with this drought, and I remember when I first started working here, that dam went straight over the island where the waterbuck are standing now. And that was an island. It wasn't a part of the sort of outside edge of the dam. So this dam really has almost completely dried up. And unfortunately, that does mean that for hippo, competition for space becomes increasingly demanding, which is one of the reasons why a lot of hippo were captured out of this area a couple of weeks ago, was in preparation for this situation. Here we go, rolling around just to cover different sides. Okay, let's creep closer to the baby. While I finish that, Kimmy, when I said I was chased by a hippo, I was chased by a hippo in a very, very dry dam where I had to dodge and dive and duck in order to get out of the way. And hit elephants and by other animals as well. So it does happen most of the time. It's always important to remember, because you are in the animal space, even if it is completely unavoidable what has happened to you, you are responsible and therefore you are at fault because you have upset that animal. Hello, little one. Deborah, our armchair traveller, you were wondering if it is usual for a baby hippo to wander so far from mom. This is one of the first times I've seen this. I have to be honest, I haven't seen a baby this young moving so far away from mom before. It's quite, I think it's just probably because it feels safe around the lodge and there's a bit of green grass, and obviously with the drought, it's needing to feed. All hippo are needing to feed during the day as well as the night, and to travel further and further afield in order to look for the nutrients that they need. And we're going to be seeing a lot of these unusual situations with hippo over the next few months. But no, this is the first time I've ever seen such a young baby so far away from mom. Definitely a first for me. And it is tiny. I mean, that baby is barely come up to my thigh, just past my knee maybe in height. Shame, little one. Our time's a bit tough to be a baby hippo at the moment. Poor thing. Already with a consort of oxpeckers to help keep it tick-free. And as it wanders up towards the guest rooms, imagine walking out and having your morning coffee and finding a baby hippo at your doorstep. Would be quite an interesting experience. But as it does wander up towards the guest rooms, let's head back across to Sam, who's at Buffelshoek Dam.
A beautiful scene is happening right in front of us at the moment. I couldn't wait for you to get here, and we are seeing all these buffalo that are coming from the distance to get something to drink. The large herd, which I've seen for quite a few days, is here. Just before that bird flies away, when all these buffaloes come, there's a grey heron just to the left there. So we've spotted a new bird for our bird list while we're here. So now that we've seen you, well, there's some very baby-looking black with feathers there. Is that a baby pig? I know it's the pied wagtail. Have a look as these buffalo come into this area. They're running down this hill to get to this water. It is very exciting stuff here. It's all happening at the watering hole this afternoon. I'm going to give you some news. There is a lion pride that was seen around Buffelshoek a little bit earlier, and we won't be able to get there now for where they were last seen, because as you can see, the buffaloes are pretty much in the area where I was going to go look for them. So potentially these buffaloes will lure. Well, hold on a second, I didn't even say hello to Mr. Hippo. There's a hippo there in the water. So as these buffaloes are drinking, you'll see a picture of the hippo in your screen. 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, There's the heron in the background, and there's the hippo. What a sighting. This is incredible to see this. It's incredible to see this many buffalo, a hippo, a grey heron in one shot. And some oxpeckers on the back, and the blacksmith plover there in the background there. They're having a good drink. They look very, very thirsty. They're pretty much taking half the watering hole up here. This is incredible. So that might just be the last bit of the herd coming in at the back there. So you can see there's all sorts here. There's females, there's the youngsters, there's some of the old bulls, some of the old cows. I wonder how this hippo might react with all this action going on here. He looks quite relaxed in the waters there. Ooh, I just said that, but maybe not. That's very cool. Have a look at that. If you want to screenshot that, it's a very cool image to have with that heron in the background. Isn't that fantastic? Hippo, buffalo, and heron. Have a look at all these buffalo. They're still actually streaming in by the dozens. I don't think we're going to stop seeing them. So it's a very, very cool sighting we're having it. This must be the same herd, one of the similar herds that we've seen around our area lately. It's huge. It must be 100 to 150 strong. You can see a much younger one there. Elaine would like to know, in what month will it start to rain a little bit more than what it is now? Elaine, so we've just had a little bit of rain today, but this will be the last of the summer rains. So the next rains will come around October, November. More around November than October. Sometimes we get early rain in October, so we may be very, very lucky then to get some, but it's going to be a very dry few months here in the African savanna. Sometimes we do get rain during the winter period, very, very infrequently. It always brings a little bit of lush nourishment to this. Look at how they're enjoying this water. So take note of how they're enjoying this water and what it's going to be like in a few months' time where this whole dam is dried up. Because that could very well be the situation in a few months' time. And the pathfinders, which are the leaders of these buffalo herds, are going to have to make very important decisions in leading these buffalo herds to places where they might be able to find a resource of water and food. But there's a big buffalo just on top of this wall over here. He's just looking over the herds as he sees these groups still coming in by the dozens. This keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Deborah, Armchair Traveller, I couldn't agree with you more about your comment that the hippo should maybe get up and take a few paces to the other side. Or actually, you know, he's very content there. I don't think he's going to have any problem with the buffaloes coming here. They don't concern each other. Ooh, what happened there? All of a sudden they started to move. That was very interesting to see that. So you can actually get quite a good view of the buffalo here. Potentially one of the buffaloes has smelt the lions that are in the area, because we know they are in the area. There in picture is a female buffalo. You can tell by the boss being quite a bit smaller than the males. Jack would like to know how far the Nkuhumas pride is to the dam. Jack, I wasn't here earlier. James was here a little bit earlier, and he said to me that they were on the northern side of the dam, and I should follow the vehicle tracks into the northern side, and I should find them. So apparently they were very, very close. Oh wow, there's a very, very small buffalo just on the right there. Isn't that incredible? How young that buffalo is there. That must be its mother. So that's very cool to see a young buffalo. This is a very, very important time for survival. The mother's going to have to take good care of that young calf, especially as the drier months come on. But as I said, Jack, I'm not sure where the lions are. They were reported to be very close to this area. I was on the way to go and see if I could find them, and we were distracted by these many, many buffaloes that are now coming right up to us to drink. That youngster is a very cool sighting. What a great. Trisha's asking if these herds are going to start huddling up more with, groups coming together as the winter season comes. Trisha, that's a very good question. I'm sure they're going to be, because the greater number of buffalo that are together, the better survival rate. Or, actually, on the other side of that, they might have to disperse to go and find water. Because if they're all moving in these very, very big, large herds, it obviously doesn't make the best for decentralizing to look for the resource of water. So, on the other side of that, I actually believe that the herds will get a little bit smaller to be able to find the water that they need over the drier months. It's a very good question. I've never experienced a drought here in the bush, so we'll see what happens. So Debbie from Vancouver is also interested to know, do the buffalo need to drink more now that the grasses are much less? It's a very good question, Debbie. I'm sure it doesn't make too much of a difference, but they will be collecting what they can from moisture content in the dew in the grasses that they get in the morning, but it most likely might mean that they need more water. So time will only tell, Debbie, what might happen out here in the bushveld. We're all very excited to see how things may go down over the next 3 months. But this is just the most phenomenal sighting here with all these buffalo. We started, Bryan and I, and of course the jellyfish thumb, was sitting here a little bit earlier from the other side, and we saw a small group of buffalo come in, and we thought that was just the group that came in. And the next thing we knew, a whole herd of buffalo came in. It's incredible to see this. And it makes very cool kind of scenery with the clouds in the background and the sun. So Kimmy would like to know how much buffalo eats. Buffalo eat for pretty much most of the day. So they will be eating most of the day as they move off towards water to find water, and then they graze. At night time they graze for quite a few hours, and then they just sit and rest. So they graze a fair amount of the day and partly into the night. I'm not sure on the figure of how much the average buffalo might eat over a 24-hour period, but throughout the day they will be consuming and grazing the grasses. And we saw the other morning, if you were on drive, it was 5 in the morning, we came across a large herd of buffalo. They were lying on the floor, cuddled up right next to each other, and not grazing, of course, just being very, very close. And it was fascinating to see that, how they behave at night time, how all you could see is their horns next to each other. Lady Luga, I also noticed that while I was looking away. I looked at the calf and it seemed like it was on its own. First it seemed like it was with its mother, and then all of a sudden we saw in the distance that it was no longer with its mother. But we may very well, I can't see the little calf anymore. So I'm not sure where that little calf is at the moment. But now we can start seeing the rear end of the buffaloes as they head away from the watering hole. It's quite interesting to see that they're now heading back in that direction. thought maybe that they would maybe cross around the dam wall and continue in a southerly direction. Potentially they're going to head north and head around. Debbie, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sure that the lions know that there's a herd this size of buffalo around. And that's why I'm very happy to stick around and see what events might occur. Because when you come to herds like this, much like the elephants, you're opening yourself up to greater action out here. I mean, for example, let's have a look at the hippo that's in the watering hole. So the water is not being that impacted by the buffalo, but what has come to the scene is a heron that's there, as well as a hammerkorp. So at the watering hole there's a hippo, there's a buffalo, there's a heron and a hammerkorp. And they are all now looking at through the edges, and other than the hippo, looking into the water to see if anything has been rustled up from the buffalo that they could potentially pick on. So birds and other species will take part in some sort of activity to see if they could get some sort of opportunistic feeding out of it. So there's the calf. Well done, Bryan has managed to find the calf. It looks like the calf has found its mother. You hear that sound of the grunt of the buffalo. And there goes the youngster as it follows its mother back out into the wilderness. What might be interesting is if we, after they've moved out of the sighting, if we just continue in the direction where they are going, we might be lucky enough to see a lion pride that will be trailing the buffalo herd. Not too sure what might happen this afternoon though. There was the hammerkorp and the heron we're talking about, who are waders. So as you can see, hammerkorp over there has those legs that will then walk into the water, potentially stir up any of the fish there, but it doesn't need to because it's got buffaloes that are walking in it. So the heron and the hammerkorp are benefiting. Look how beautiful that bird is. Isn't that a magnificent bird? You can see the strings that are coming off the front of its breast there. And look at the side, that's a great angle. Incredible looking bird. Very, very, very good looking. Sure, oh, the herons. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much for doing that. That was very cool to see that. So, it's in and amongst the buffaloes now. And I'm now actually starting to pay attention to all the different little bits of life that are living around these buffalo. Robin from Maryland is interested to know whether the... Sorry about this. Just getting it into place. Robin from Maryland is interested to know if a female buffalo, when giving birth to a young buffalo, will the herd wait for her while she has a buffalo? Most times they won't. It's a very quick procedure. What would happen is the buffalo will leave the herd and will give birth to the calf, and then probably around 5 to 10 minutes is actually able to get up and start walking. So buffaloes, as well as wildebeest, are also very similar to that, where they can get up just a few minutes after birth, and then the buffalo will move towards the herds and bring them into the herds. So the buffalo herds will most likely not wait for the females. The females will move off, give birth, and then come and find the herds. It's something that I haven't experienced, though. I've never come across a wildebeest or a buffalo that has just given birth. Jennifer and others were quite excited to see that the young calf managed to find its mother. While Jennifer and others, I am also quite excited to have seen that. Hopefully they will stick together through this long night and potentially away from the lions, but the lions might be very hungry because it's a very easy kill to get. Chris Rogue is interested to know if a crocodile would be interested in taking down quite a large buffalo. Well, of course, you can get very, very big crocodiles that will be happy to try on something big, but mainly a crocodile will potentially go for a much younger looking buffalo that is down by the watering hole drinking. In my case, I've never experienced a young or a older buffalo being killed by a crocodile. I think that is quite something that's rare to see. But with a young buffalo, of course, that is very, very common to see that a crocodile will kill. If anything is hanging on the outskirts of the water and the crocodile can get to. Did you see that little bit of interaction between the buffalo there and the heron? It was very cool to see that. Look how he struts in the water there. Oof. So that was a sudden run from the buffalo. It looks like they're looking up there. There's a number of them are looking up the hill there. Potentially they've seen the lions. Yes, I'm sure they have. Yeah, they have, because they're now moving towards. Look at how they're sniffing the air there. I'm more than sure the whole herd is now looked up in that position. Potentially we might see something a little bit more. Look, yes, look, they're all still looking there. They've hunched up. Is there something there? This is fascinating to have seen that behavior. We knew the lions were close by. We saw them looking very stressed out there. The one is still looking out into the distance now. Let's let go of that gaze. But did you see how they suddenly just started to run up the hill there? They must have caught scent or caught visual of those lions. So we'll let these buffalo move up the hill and cross over that dam wall, because we won't be able to cross over there until they've moved off. And then we'll go and investigate the area and see what they might be. Potentially those lions are trailing on the buffalo. So while we get ready to investigate what might be happening here at the watering hole still, let's go and see how Jamie's doing. I think she's on Arathusa, trailing around Arathusa.
So while Sam investigates whatever's happening with those buffalo at the moment, and I'm fairly certain the smell of lion must be upsetting them profoundly. We know that the Nkuhumas were around that area this morning, and we know that that female spent quite a few days in that particular area, so that's probably what's got them so on edge. In the meantime, I'm somewhere. Oh, wonderful! I know where I am. I know exactly where I am on Arathusa. Things were starting to look a little bit desperate there for a moment. But it's okay, because I figured out where we are. We're at the back of Red Dam. Woohoo! I had this horrible, horrible feeling. And so where's this little corner of Arathusa that tends to confuse me profoundly? And I just had this awful feeling that I was trespassing somewhere where I most definitely shouldn't be. But what we're doing is we're currently on the lookout for the Mangheni pride, or also known as the Tsalala Breakaway pride. From what I can tell, it's just the sub-adults of this particular group that are around here. So those are the lions that we are looking for. And it's just a matter of figuring out where they've gone. They've finished off the carcass that they were on. I think it was a buffalo. And they've gone somewhere. They might have gone for a drink. So we're going to go check Red Dam now, see if they're anywhere around there. Otherwise, we're going to loop back to the area where they were last seen. This road's changed a little bit. Up we go. That's one of the reasons for the multitude of vultures that we've seen in the area, which we will keep looking for in the trees as we turn around and go the other way. Yeah, we'll just keep looking at the trees for now. The worst place to have to turn around possible, but we're definitely going to check another road. And James Richards, you were wondering if baby animals like baby hippos ever get a bit of a fright when they first experience the sort of personal space invasion that is an oxpecker landing upon them. And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe it is a really peculiar experience. And of course, oh, bumpy. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, Dave, throwing you about at the back there. Leaving Rebecca at Red Dam. Nope, she's still clinging onto the back. So baby animals take a lot of their cues from their mothers. So whether or not they get particularly scared by an experience like that, maybe they just look at the way that their mothers respond to that kind of treatment and take the cue from that. I don't think that they do, but it's interesting because an animal like an elephant with its trunk is completely intolerant of the presence of oxpeckers. Elephants do not, absolutely do not, allow oxpeckers to sit on them. So what is it about them that deters or that creates that personality that won't accept it? Whereas for the other animals, they're perfectly comfortable with it. And as we saw with that baby hippo from a very young age, have to find themselves getting used to that kind of presence. Honestly, I don't have an answer to those questions. I'm just wondering about it. Okie dokie. Let's figure out where we plan to go from here. I mean, as a human being, I think I would be exceptionally uncomfortable with an oxpecker hopping around on me. Maybe picking off, I mean, look, I've got a finger and thumbs. Well, I've got fingers and a thumb, so I don't need oxpeckers around, and they certainly hopefully wouldn't find much to snack on. But as a human being, and primates certainly don't ever allow them, but that's because they can do the job themselves. Hello, Impala. I hope you're all working on your Impala rutting imitations. Why are you alarm calling at me? Or are you alarm calling at me? Yes, no? That harsh brah sound. There's a young impala at the back making alarm calls, but I don't think... Sometimes, every now and again, especially during rutting period where they are so on edge, being chased and harassed by the males, sometimes they do alarm call for no good reason. And it's only when several members of the herd start alarm calling that they will really start to, or that you should really start looking for something like a leopard or a lion. Speaking of lions, I don't want to delay for too long. I want to keep going and see if we can't figure out where our lions are. I'm so excited to see a new pride, one that I haven't seen before. I'm just wondering if they're not walking past here. But the rest of the impala not really showing much in the way of alarm. I'm just laughing because that one impala whose alarm calling has got laryngitis or something. It's a very high-pitched, bah! Unusual alarm call sound. It's not quite, but maybe lost its voice from all of the calling during the rut, or strained its vocal cords. But that's a very peculiar impala alarm call. What do you look? No, hold on. What are they looking at? They're all looking away from us now. It'd be nice if a leopard came wandering through. Not all of them showing signs of alertness, but sometimes one impala is a little bit brighter than the others, and a bit more aware of what's going on. Let's just sit here for a moment and watch their behavior, see if the rest of them catch on. I don't think they're going to, though. But Teresa, I like your theory. Teresa's got a theory as to why an elephant won't accept oxpeckers whilst others will. She says, well, since the other animals, or since elephants don't have fur, perhaps they can't feel it, or perhaps they do feel it more acutely than the animals with fur, so it bugs them more than it might an impala. It's a good theory, not bad at all, except hippo. Although I suppose a hippo would have a really hard time dislodging an oxpecker. And rhino as well, they also carry oxpeckers on them, with a minimal degree of fuss. Impala are on edge, but that one is still alarm calling. It's not a rutting sound, that's an alarm call. What has this one impala seen that the others haven't? Let's just go see if we can't get a different view from around the corner. You never know, we might have chosen, or had a fortuitous route chosen for us this afternoon. I want to find the one that's calling, and I want to see where it's looking. If it's looking at me, then it's a twit. Let's see if we can't zoom in at the back there, Days, if they're not. Impala male doesn't seem terribly concerned, but then again, at this time of year, they never do. They usually have other things on their mind, which is why Karula, for example, was able to take advantage of that one male. A very large prey choice for a female of Karula's size. What with their level of distraction? What, Impala? Sounds as though a female leopard has just crossed into Djuma from around Simbambili. I don't think that my radio will work well enough to communicate that across, but quite possibly James might be interested in that. I think James was out on tracking team. I couldn't hear, unfortunately, I couldn't hear exactly where the leopard crossed, but they've just called in that she's crossed in. And I'm going to try and get that message through to James. While I do, let's head back across to Sam, who's been far more successful than I have this afternoon.
So we have managed to relocate on the lions that are north of the dam. So what a scene has played out for us this afternoon. We saw that huge buffalo herd that must have only crossed to the watering hole here, maybe 50 meters just to the west of these lions that are here. And these lions didn't want to get anything to eat, so they've just lay in the thicket. And when we saw those buffalo get up and start smelling the air there, they were definitely smelling these lions. So that was an incredible sighting to see those buffalo seeing those lions in the thicket there. And we are now with the pride. So there's just two here. There's another two that aren't, we're not visible. They're in the thicket. So we can just see these two lionesses lying down in front of us, and one of them did get up, and it looked like it was about to go drink some water from the watering hole, but then turned around and came back. So a very, very exciting afternoon, I can tell you that. Oh, here comes one of the females. Yes, isn't she beautiful? And she's going to make contact. They are very, very social animals. Perfect. Steph, yes, these are the Nkuhumas. So we have just relocated on the Nkuhuma pride, which is the only pride that I've seen since I've been working here with WildEarth. And they are the pride where one of them looks and seems to be fairly pregnant. Oh wow, there goes that heron that we saw flying, or sitting by the watering hole, and now it's flying in the distance there. Great filming from Bryan. Well done, Bryan. And here it comes again. Oh no, it's about to land. So this is the only pride that I've seen, and one of them is thought to have been pregnant, and we haven't seen her yet. Not so sure where she is at the moment, but it's nice to see that the whole pride's here. And we've seen this pride here quite a few times now. I think I've actually watched the Nkuhumas walking through Buffelshoek, this area, probably about 3 or 4 times now. So we're now spending another afternoon with the Nkuhumas, very, very close to our property, so it's great to spend some time with them. And they do look fairly full. So see, we were looking at the whiskers earlier of the leopard, and now we can quite clearly see the whiskers of the lion, female lioness, and they seem to be quite a lot shorter than that of the leopard. Look at those eyes. Isn't that beautiful? Female lioness. The sound of a go-away bird in the distance there, with a magnificent backdrop of these clouds and the sun just behind them. So it's still quite a grey day with the lionesses here by Buffelshoek Dam. It's been a fantastic day. We've seen so much, specifically with the cats. So look at that dramatic scene unfolding here. Very cool to see that light coming off those clouds. So Rosette wants to know how far these lions are from that herd of buffalo that we saw a bit earlier. So the buffalo's headed in a westerly direction from this dam, which is probably about 50 meters west of us now, and they are walking slowly but surely away from these lions. So they're probably now around about 500 meters to a kilometer, or maybe a mile away from the lions at the moment. So they weren't interested in getting something to eat by the watering hole, and there must have been, I mean, that was that small calf that was on its own on the side there. Do you remember that calf that was standing on the side of the watering hole? That could have been a very, very easy kill for one of these lionesses. So she was in quite a lot of danger. All the lions getting up. Cats and Tampers noticed some black spots on one of the females on the backs and asking if those could be ticks. Well, we can see quite a few flies on the back there, but those could very well be ticks. And I'm pretty sure they are ticks, because you can even see the flies getting up on top of those ticks there. Maybe trying to collect whatever's being left from the ticks as they suck the blood of this lion. I'm just going to get binoculars out and have an even closer look. Kimmy is interested in taking screenshots of some of the female lionesses and putting it up on her Facebook page and then sharing it for SafariLIVE. Kimmy, we encourage this with all our viewers. You know, the experience that we are having out here in the bush is just as much your experience as it is mine. And so the more that we learn about these animals and what they're doing out here, it's just the better the experience will become. So we encourage every single viewer to get involved in any way that they can. There's no limitations. We highly, highly encourage that. Everything that we do out here is a shared experience that we have. So Belly the backpacker would like to know, is it the same kind of, is it the same as telling the difference of a leopard with the spot pattern with the lion? Yes, it is possible, but it's just a lot harder. You know, the leopard, it's much easier to tell the difference. Lions, it's much, much harder. So you really have to look for the detail in the different lionesses to tell them apart. And what some people will do is they'll have a look at the teeth, and they'll see like maybe that there's a broken tooth. They'll see maybe on the nose that one of them is a lot pinker than the other ones, and that is often a sign of maturity when we look at the pink of a nose of a lion. So that cannot always be the best way of telling by looking at the pink nose, because often that will lose that pinkness and go black as the lioness gets older. But of course there will be scars over fights, there will be all sorts of different signs that the lioness will pick up, individual characteristics of the lion that we will then be able to distinguish from the other. So we were sitting with the Birminghams the other night, and I was trying to look at the difference between the 4 Birminghams, and I made a few notes. It is very, very hard, and it takes a very patient and good listener and watcher of each individual to understand each individual. So I'm starting to get to know them slowly but surely. I know Spotted Nose quite well, since I've seen her the most since I've been here with WildEarth. She's the one that looks fairly pregnant. So, I'm still sitting in this beautiful scene here with these lionesses. These clouds are creating such an incredible atmosphere to our drive this afternoon. So Robin's asking more about the pregnant lion, and I've been studying and reading up on pregnant lions since I found her, and from what I've read and listened to from some of the other guides is that the lioness will move off towards an area where she'll be able to have her cubs in quietness, and then she'll only reintroduce the cubs after 6 weeks as they grow up. So it's around 6 weeks, that's the general norm. So the chances are that Spotted Nose, who is quite pregnant, is sitting up or lying down in one of the thickets around Buffelshoek Dam and waiting to give birth to those cubs. And the pride is just sticking around, maybe to give her some company while she goes through this process. I'm sure they'll probably help her with feeds. I mean, if they kill something, they'll probably share some of the feed with her. I'm not too sure what that situation might look like as it unfolds, but we are going to be shortly finding out how it all works. And it's very important to note that every single experience and observation that we make in the bush will always be different. These lions might act very, very differently to the lions that we see in the Okavango Delta or lions. We even see close to us in the Timbavati. We cannot make it. We can only make general observations. Jennifer said that scars and head shape are quite good ways in which we could tell the difference. That's exactly right, Jennifer. You can have a look at the different scars on the lions as well as the size of the head to distinguish a little bit more about these lions. You also get to know personalities a bit better. And this one over here seems to be very, very social. The other ones, a little bit more active than the other two that we can see at the moment. I think there's another one lying up in the thicket somewhere. One's rolling around there. That could very well be spotted nose. So one of the lionesses has got up and has got back down. Have a look now. Ooh. Have a look at those teats. The nipples there on the lioness, they're looking very, very large. This could very well be spotted nose over here. Look at the size of that stomach. It's much more enlarged than I can see on any of the other females. They've also become a lot more darker and blacker than the others. So this is interesting to see that. We noticed that straight away when we looked at her as she lay down. It's so cool to see them all lying with their arms resting on each other. So Ivy Mary just thought that one of the sizes of those paws was one of her cubs. Yeah, no, that's most definitely not a cub over there. That's just one really big paw. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because we were looking at the paw of a leopard a little bit earlier. And so we can actually see a little bit of a difference between the paw of a lion and the paw of a leopard. The paw... So we looked at the whiskers as well. So the whiskers are a bit shorter on the lion, but the paw of a lion is much bigger than that of a leopard. And I've actually got a little. There we go. That's a perfect. Well, not perfect. So you can kind of distinguish that shape of paw compared to that of the leopard we saw a little bit earlier. So very cool afternoon to be able to study some of the cats, learn a little bit more about them and see what characteristics each of them have. I just thought I'd show you also on this chart that I have between the leopard and the lion. So a leopard's had, this thing has been a very, very helpful thing for me over the last few weeks, and you can see here the leopard is over there, and it gets from around 7 to 9.5 centimeters. So this is my ruler where I go and track. So 7 to 9.5 centimeters is the leopard, and the female leopard will be considerably smaller to that of the male. But have a look at this male lion track over here, quite a lot bigger. So it is 13 to 16 centimeters big. But just before we link through to Jamie, who has got something very exciting to see, remember that there's 3 lobes and there's 3 lobes, so don't get it wrong. Have a look at your tracking book. Let's go and see how Jamie's doing.
Thank goodness Jamie has something very exciting. It has been one of the most traumatic searches for lions I have gone through in recent days. And I'll explain why to you in a second, but let's start by just saying, yay, we have one of the Mangheni lions lying up in the shade, sporting one very full belly. And I've just stopped here so I could very briefly show you where the kill site initially was. Patch of churned up mud and dirt and stomach contents. Apparently they had a buffalo kill. So it's all around here. And let's reposition and see if we can't get a closer look at some new lions to us. And while we do, and keep our head turned, while we do, Kimmy, you were asking if I have ever been attacked by anything whilst in a vehicle. And the answer is, by far and away, the thing that attacks me most whilst I am in a vehicle is off-road branches. And luckily for me, the smack to the face that I just took was caught in slow motion, or can be replayed to you in slow motion by the Final Control girls. So let's just have a look and see what hit me in the face. I have to say, that was really sore. So my left eye is now very swollen, and that is... Oh, there's a carcass there. I didn't mean to park so on top of it. Whoopsie daisy. I'm forgiven, though, because I can't see out of my left eye. I can, just. There's the buffalo carcass. Pretty much all eaten away. Hardly anything left. Just a little bit of the face still around. And as usual, they've left most of the limbs. And there we have one very, very full sub-adult female. Now, gator bait, as we look at this incredibly large lioness and my poor swollen eyeball, which is actually getting more painful by the moment. Gator bait was wondering, how do lions stay in such good physical shape when they don't do any exercise? In fact, they spend most of their time sleeping with only short bursts of activity. You know, it's funny you should ask that. It's a really good question, because it's one that I've asked myself. Isn't she beautiful, by the way? It's one that I asked myself many years ago when I was working with a cheetah that had been taken off a farm. And she couldn't be released straight away, because very often what cheetah will do, if they don't go through what's known as a soft release process, they escape and they go straight back where they came from. So she was put in a boma for 3 months, in other words, a small fenced area. And I asked the vet who was treating her whether or not she wouldn't become exceptionally unfit from that experience. And his answer was that their muscle design is completely different from ours. So they've got, actually, you think of a fit, athletic lion, you sort of think of as being really, really having muscles of steel. But in fact, their muscles are really floppy to the touch. They're designed differently to ours. They're built and evolved for bursts of speed and then huge amounts of relaxation. And a lion, if it exerts itself too much, will actually overheat. And they're very, very poorly adapted for being able to Sorry guys, I've just been interrupted by an update on the Game Drive channel. And it seems as though, because I've just been wondering where the rest of the 9 promised lions were, most of them have got up and gone for a drink, and this lovely lady has been left to guard the carcass. But yes, a lion is very poorly adapted for its body temperature to go up more than about 1.5 degrees. And after that, they start to overheat. And it's one of the ways in which lions have evolved alongside humans, and basically to not be in competition with us. So we are the dominant daytime predator, they are the dominant nighttime predator. Now, where I've parked myself is completely wrong, unfortunately, because I didn't see the carcass because of the blinding of my left eye due to the impact of the branch. Because obviously now if she wants to come and feed, she's going to feel incredibly uncomfortable. So I'm just going to reposition. I can't stay here. Not fair on her, I didn't mean to do it. But we're just going to back away and reposition ourselves. Now, this is the very first time I have ever seen these lions, and a first time for many of you as well. So, Astrolina, oh no, now the antenna's coming from my other eye. This is tragic. This is terrible. Stop attacking me. Astrolina, you are absolutely right. You say you don't know which lions you're watching, and could you have a bit of a background on them? And let me just scoot past these obstacles. And I shall tell you a little bit about the Mangheni pride and their incredible history. Here we go. Hello, gorgeous. Hello, lovely lady. This is the sub-adult. So, Astrolina, the Mangheni pride, from what I've been able to find out, are also known as the Tsalala Breakaway pride. Now, we have to port ourselves back to 2010 in the reign of the Great Mpoho Coalition, that famous coalition of 6 male lions. And in 2010, in Londolozi and a lot of the central part of the Sabi Sands, Djuma, Arathusa included. In 2010, it was a time of great change. It was the time when the Majingilan coalition of male lions stepped in. And this is where we go back to the famous story. And I must thank James Tyrrell for this history that I'm providing you with now. He was working at Londolozi, as he still is during this time. And the Majingilanis came in. They kicked out the Mapokos, ultimately killing the last of them. And they set out to take over the prides that the Mpoho males were dominant over. What that meant for the Tsalala pride, who had some young sub-adults, that they were at huge risk, much like the time when the Birmingham boys took over and the poor Nkuhumas females found themselves in such a quandary. Now, the famous tailless lion, Ness, of the Tsalala pride, not the one that we've seen, or one that is now deceased, her mother, decided that in order to keep her sub-adults safe, she was going to take them away. So she took a group of sub-adult females away, and they disappeared, hardly ever seen, for a considerable period of time, right up until the point that the sub-adults grew up and became old enough to mate with the Majingilan males who had now established themselves in that territory. And thus, a completely separate new pride was born, known as the Tsalala Breakaways or the Mangheni pride. Now, from what I know of the sub-adults, this is now, bearing in mind this was sort of 2010 to 2014, the young sub-adults then grew up to have their cubs of their own, and unless I am very much mistaken, we might be out by a generation, but unless I am very much mistaken, these sub-adults are the cubs of the sub-adults that tailless lioness rescued from the Majingilan males. So that is who we're looking at the moment, and from what I understand, there are three sub-adult males and 6 sub-adult females, such as this one. Now, if that information is correct, or if any of you have anything further to add, I know that some of you, and Angie and Kachino, John and Blair, I'm thinking sort of along your lines, but I know that there are lots. I don't mean to insult anyone by forgetting anyone. I'm just throwing out some names. I know that you know the lions of the Sabi Sands and you monitor them, so if you have any further information that you would like to share with me, I would love to hear it. And you know the routes, but hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter or email to question@wildearth.tv. Let me know if you have any further information you'd like to offer. As to why they're here, away from Londolozi, well, your guess is as good as mine. What has happened that sent the Matimba males scurrying to Simbambili, along with the Tsalala Breakaways, and in fact the Tsalalas, who are just to the south of the Arathusa airstrip, just to the south of our boundary? What on earth is going on in that southern portion? Interesting questions and some shifting line dynamics. In the meantime, back to our settled line dynamics, or at least settled for now, our lovely pregnant Nkuhumas lionesses.
And so you move from one pride that is on Arathusa to the next, which is our lovely Nkuhumas pride, just in front of us here. And you can see what looks to be the very, very pregnant female just in front there. The big, there we can see the big stomach. So cool to see them lying next to each other, and I'm very, very happy to hear that Jamie's with the Mangheni pride. I used to see the Mangheni pride when I was at Londolozi, and I truly, truly enjoyed seeing them. So I haven't seen them for about 2 years yet, and they were young cubs when I was at Londolozi, so it's 2 years on now, and they will be sub-adults. So interested to see what they are looking like at this present moment. Deborah, armchair traveller, said that she thought she saw something moving in the stomach of this, what looks to be the very, very pregnant female. Well, let's sit in frame for a few seconds, Deborah, to see if we can see a kick or two ourselves. Maybe we might be able to see that. Can't say I've seen anything quite significant, but I haven't been staring at her stomach. So we are having a good look now. This could be quite interesting to see. It's very, very special to spend time with a pregnant female. Darlene from New Hampshire is very excited to see what might come of these cubs in the future, as am I. Darlene, I've never seen young cubs. I've only seen about 3-4 year old, which were the Mangheni, from the Mangheni pride on Lozi. So I've never seen a birth of cubs, and then to see the interaction between them, which you are quite excited to see. It's going to be fascinating, and it's going to be live, and we're going to learn more about the species and learn more about how cubs are raised in the wild, and to share that with thousands of people is a very, very special thing. And in terms of the conservation and the love for these animals, that's what they need. They need deep experiences and deep learning through just experiencing every single day of life. So it's going to be fascinating to watch the developments of this female as she gives birth to the cubs over the coming months, or the coming weeks rather, because I've been here a few times and I've seen her and she's looked very, very uncomfortable. And at the moment she looks fairly tired and sleepy. Debbie, armchair travel, says that she can quite clearly see some knockabouts in the stomach, which I haven't left my eyes from since I was looking there, and I haven't quite seen anything yet. But what we can see is that she is most definitely pregnant, because on the other females I can't see suckle marks as prominent as that. If we look at the stomach of one of the other lionesses there, but they do look full, and they do look like they've eaten. That's potentially why they weren't interested in having a look at one of those buffaloes as they moved down towards the watering hole. That could have been very, very interesting to see if they had made a kill while we were alive. It would have been awesome. Sitting on the other side of the watering hole looking at the grey heron and the hippo and all the beautiful things at the watering hole. Sarah is commenting on how sweet it is to see these these lionesses lying next to each other and putting their paws over one another. So it is really cool to see this. It's special to see when you find the lionesses and lions in general, because they are very social cats, and how they work together as a team, and how they are very affectionate of one another, and how they always are trying to strengthen the relationship between one another, because that's going to serve them the best interest in the future. Bryan's just zoomed up on the paw over there. You can see where the retractable claws would come out of this lioness. I'd love to see those claws coming out. Sheaths. Very, very big. I can see why someone made a little mistake of a lion cub to the size of one of these paws, because they are not small paws, they are quite big. Probably, yeah, as I said, 12 to 13 centimeters. Paul is interested in learning a little bit more of the social dynamics of the lion prides and how they are interacting with each other. Paul, it is a fascinating study, learning a little bit more how lions interact with each other within a landscape, and learning how the Mangheni pride, the sub-adults, so the youngsters that will be leaving their mothers at around 1.5 years, they'll go off, especially the males. Some of the females mainly generally stick to the prides, but the young male sub-adults will leave, and they'll go search for new terrain, a new land to conquer and have territory on. So that's going to upset all sorts of things out here in the bush. It's going to upset mainly, obviously, the lion dynamics, and that's going to change things. So having the Mangheni pride so far north that they are now, I've never seen them, and Jamie said this is the first time that she's experienced the Mangheni sub-adults coming up here. So Paul, it's going to play a huge influence to the north here. It's going to have a big ripple effect, and I'm sure this pride will feel it at some stage, whether or not it'll be in the next couple of days or the next weeks. But that will also influence the male coalitions that are in the area. So the coalitions that are here, the Birminghams, will probably want to mate with those, with that pride that's coming up here, with the Mangheni pride. And so we might just be seeing some interesting behavior that goes on around here. But it's fascinating to learn more about how even the top predator, which is the lion, and how that might ripple effect on all different, the web of life out here, the interconnected ecosystem. Because if you can imagine, everything is very, very deeply interconnected, and when you start changing some of the fine tunings of it, it's going to have ripple effects on all sorts of life, not just the lions. Leopards will be impacted, and therefore it will shake the herbivores. Chris Rogue is commenting on looking forward to seeing the lion cubs get up and start trying to take on some of the older responsibilities, such as roaring, and how cute that might look. Because I'm also fascinated to see how that's going to turn out, and seeing a squealing little lion trying to roar. That's going to be very cool to watch that. Hopefully in the next couple weeks to months we'll be able to experience that often here on Djuma. So we are very excited. We've just had leopard cubs. I mean, we were sitting this afternoon and this morning with Karula. Yesterday we were with Karula and her cubs, and we went through to go look for Karula and the youngsters. But the youngsters didn't seem to have been there. It was just Karula that was up in a tree. So I still haven't experienced the cubs of Karula that much. I'm looking forward to having a few encounters with those beautiful little leopard cubs. I know that I'll have my time. I'm thoroughly looking forward to the beautiful little cubs that come out of these lions in the future. It's going to be fantastic to experience them. And I truly believe, like, the more that we have these deep experiences with the natural world, the more that we'll understand them better and have a better understanding of all of life centered. And understand how each individual within the web of life is influencing one another. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to take this job with WildEarth, because I know that deep experiences with the natural world will help me become a little bit more interconnected with some of the genius that's going on this planet. So there's no different sitting here with these lions and learning from them as it is learning about the stars that will be coming out in just a few minutes. Look at all those flies that are flying around this lioness's ear. Lynn would like to know, what is the gestation period of a lion? It's around about 3 months. So that's the similar gestation to that of a leopard. So they could have been probably around, I would say, 2.5 months pregnant, 2.5 to 3, this lioness that we're seeing over here. But I wouldn't know. I haven't seen any of these females mating at all. I only arrived about a month ago. Bryan, has these females been mating with the Birminghams quite often? So there's been a lot of action between the Nkuhumas and the Birminghams that have been around here over the last few months. So I'm sure, well, more than sure, that the Birminghams are the fathers of these lions. For if they weren't, those Birminghams would kill any cubs that came. And the Nkuhumas sit in the territory of the Birminghams. Doodle asked a very good question around, the possibility of seeing the lion cubs compared to seeing the leopard cubs, and what are the zoning kind of regulations around that. And it's very different with lions. With leopard cubs, it's much harder for us to experience a leopard cub as it is to experience a lion cub, because often when the lions do come out of their dens with their cubs, and they'll go into a very deep thicket that we most of the time won't be able to fall into. But after 6 weeks or so, those cubs will be out with the pride and moving around and walking on the roads, and it's much easier to view lion cubs as it is to view those leopard cubs, purely because they are at the top of the food chain and they don't have as much risk as what those leopard cubs do. And while we sit with these beautiful Nkuhuma ladies, let's go and see how the Mangheni pride is doing with Jamie.
Just been sitting completely engrossed in the Stevenson Hamilton book that I spoke about a couple of days ago, the one that I acquired from my grandfather after he passed away, and one that was written in 1945 in Skukuza, the capital, essentially, of the Kruger National Park. And I've been enjoying some of his descriptions of lions. I'm looking for a nice extract to read for you. It seems as though they definitely had trouble with lions climbing out, or not lions, with guests climbing out of their vehicles in the Kruger National Park, even around the early 1940s, a problem that continues on even today. Our lioness, with her full belly, has barely moved. She really does have an enormously round belly. Looks as though it's been a while since she ate, though. If you can sort of see what I mean, she has that lanky, sub-adult look. Around that full belly, she actually looks quite thin. But perfectly relaxed and enjoying her evening. We find ourselves with a very interesting, I'm not going to read you any extracts from now, just because we do have a very interesting discussion to have about what impacts the current lion dynamics are going to have. And Kat in Tampa, you were wondering, would this pride, oh, big stretch, let me get us a little bit more light. You were wondering, would this pride be competition or compete with the Nkuhumas or fight with the Nkuhumas? And would the Birmingham boys mate with them? So the answer is yes, absolutely. The Nkuhumas would be terribly unimpressed to find them in what is essentially part of their home range, but only just. And these lions seem to be skirting, as the Tsalalas did, the original Tsalala pride with the tailless lioness's daughter, Bibi's daughter, that we saw a couple of months ago. They've sort of been skirting the no man's land, as the Tsalalas did when the Matimbas first entered Londolozis. Now the Matimbas at this point have fathered several cubs, and it's interesting to see these sub-adults moving off on their own. Would they mate with the Birmingham boys? If they were in estrus, yes, they would. The females are not, despite popular perception, they are not loyal to the males that control their home range or their territory. There's a lot of research coming to light now that seems to suggest that the fathers of cubs are not always the dominant males of that area, and quite often are unknown or show unknown DNA samples returned after testing. So lionesses are clever things, just like leopardesses are clever things, and will choose to mate with as many as males as possible whenever they can, whenever they're in estrus, as a way of essentially ensuring the increased chances of safe raising of cubs. Now, the one thing that made the Mangheni pride quite famous or quite extraordinary was that the sub-adult females, the tailless lioness, after her daughters were grown, or they can't all have been her daughters, but after the young lionesses that she rescued from the Mujingilani males, and when she moved off, they grew to adulthood. Bibi returned to the Tsalala pride, but the young lionesses did not. And yet they managed to raise their cubs to adulthood with a 90% success rate. Bearing in mind, of course, that the average mortality rate for a lion cub under a year old is 50%. So they demonstrated quite incredible, that's a new word. I think it's quite incredible, an incredible success in the raising of their cubs and the natural mothering instinct. And we had a long discussion about this at Fireside Chat yesterday, about what makes a good animal mother and what does not. Personally, I have no idea. But yes, they would mate with the Birmingham boys. I also don't think that we fully know how the lion dynamics will continue to play out in the future. I couldn't even begin to guess. And speaking of the incredibly distinctive tailless lioness, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. The smack to my head has obviously impaired my speech patterns. Talking about the tailless lioness, Bibi, and in fact her daughter, who ended up tailless as well. Lionel, you were wondering, was she born this way, or was there another reason for the loss of her tail? And apparently she wasn't born that way, neither was her daughter. But the fact that you got two lionesses with no tails in the same pride did have me wondering if maybe there's not some kind of genetic link. It was just fascinating that it was her daughter as well. Maybe some kind of congenital weakness, but it's not unheard of that lionesses lose their tail, and apparently the tails for both of those lionesses were lost to hyenas. And of course, I suppose a bite from a hyena, a bone-crushing bite, damaging the nerves and damaging the muscles and the tendons, would eventually result in the loss of a tail, even if they didn't pull it off initially. So it was apparently in a skirmish with hyenas. That's what I have been told. Obviously, I wasn't there to witness it. But it is interesting. It's an interesting little aspect of their development of a pride. And it made them incredibly, it provided something so easily identifiable about that particular lioness. Shamel, or Shamel, I think. Sorry if I'm mangling your name. Shamel? I apologize if I haven't quite got it 100% correct. Shemel, you were wondering about whether or not with Junior, you were worrying about him, hoping that he will not be at risk with all of these changes in the lion dynamics. And then we're wondering if the new daddies, the hairy belly and Matimba male, would still accept and tolerate him. Yes, probably, not 100% guaranteed. They probably wouldn't appreciate him trying to join up with the two of them. But if they encountered each other, there is a chance, because lions do recognize each other, there is a chance that he would be left alone. There is also a chance that they would not tolerate him and that they would actually chase him away, because they have been separated for so long. And it's part of a lion's natural drive for the young males to disperse away from their natal home ranges in order to at least help to counteract inbreeding. It's one of the ways in which they have evolved to try and maintain a degree of genetic diversity. So evolutionary-wise, for hairy belly and the ginger male, yes, they want to propagate their genes, and their junior is one way, or the success of junior is one way in which they could continue to do so. They also don't want competition within the natal range, and they don't want junior to be mating with his mothers. The difference is, of course, now that the Matimba males have actually been removed from junior's natal range by the Birmingham boys. And as to what kind of an impact that would have on their relationship with junior, it's impossible for us to know for sure. Chances are they would tolerate him, not necessarily accept him, but tolerate him at a distance, especially if junior proved to play his cards right, as he did with the Birmingham boys. But it would be almost unheard of for him to join up and form a coalition with his fathers at that age difference. And the nice thing is, of course, although these lionesses or this lion pride could potentially come into conflict with the Nkuhumas lionesses, they are exceptionally far away. So, Lynn, we are sitting in the top northwestern corner of the farthest reaches of Arathusa, the traverse area to the west of Djuma. The Nkuhumas are sitting on the far east, northeastern corner of Djuma, which puts them... Sorry. I heard whatever she heard as well. I'm just going to take my spotlight away from her for now. I don't think whatever she heard bothered her, but I just want to check. Just heard rustling. Don't know whether it was hyenas coming a searching, whether there's something else there. So, Lynn, we're at a distance of about close to 8, maybe even 9 kilometers, which is in miles. My mile conversion is appalling. 5.5, 6 odd miles. That's a bit too much. 5 miles would be a rough estimate as to how far away we are. We're quite far away from Sam. We're very far away from Sam. We're as far away as we can get within our traverse area. Now, she, of course, is here, whilst the rest of the pride is at Simbambili Dam to have a drink. She is here to guard the carcass. And Dave, Rebecca, and myself were just having a highly amusing conversation, trying to imagine how it is determined amongst lions around a kill who gets to go and drink and who has to stay behind and guard. And my suggestion was a game of rock, paper, scissors, although how they would play rock, paper, scissors with paws, I'm uncertain. And I could just picture one of them whining about the fact that they were on guard duty for the last 2 times. And David suggested that she was just happens to be a particularly heavy sleeper, and that the rest of the pride has snuck around very softly and quietly whilst she was snoozing, and she woke up to find herself alone and on guard duty whether she wants to or not. Doesn't seem terribly put out, though, if we're completely honest, does she? Oh, Sam has got one of our other nocturnal creatures across to him. Never mind. Bushbaby has jumped away and disappeared. We are still with the lioness. Sorry about that. Joys of live wildlife filming, particularly birds and bush babies. and other things that take you by surprise around corners, including branches. My eye's hurting. I'm feeling quite bitter towards that particular tree. All right, back to Sam, bush baby.
We've just found a bush baby in a tree. Have a look at that bush baby. Isn't that so sweet? We've just spotted him. We've actually seen quite a few, me and Bryan. We've seen about 3 or 4 since we've left the lions. Look how beautiful this bush baby is. Oh, this is awesome. This is so cool to see this moving around. You can see the very, very red eyes, and that's what gives them away out here. You just shine your torch into the bushes and you see these magnificent looking red eyes. I just want to switch the vehicle off here. So we've been moving around following them a lot, so it looks like it's just moved off into the tree now. How awesome was that though? That was a very cool, quick sighting of those bush babies. I'm just going to move off the road quickly because we've got a vehicle coming. Just give them space so that they can drive past us. While we potentially see if we can find a bush baby again. So there seems to be quite a few in this area. We've seen 3 in the last 10 minutes. I'll just see if I can find anything. It's so cool when you spot them. You're just driving slowly down the road, waiting for anything to appear. And next thing you know, you just see these red eyes looking at you. And then you put your torch on and it's the sweetest looking bush baby. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to carry on, get into a position where we can maybe find us another bush baby. I know Bryan has got very, very good eyes, so maybe he'll spot us a chameleon. Thanks, Jason. I think it was last time that I was with Bryan when we spotted a bush baby. Very, very exciting when we do see them. As I said, we've seen quite a few in the last few minutes, so if you stick with us just for the next 2 minutes, I bet you we can find you another one. Let's see if we can spot another bush baby lurking around this area. Maybe those red eyes won't be bush babies, maybe it'll be a leopard. So I am going to put on my 2 lights, because that'll help Bryan look. Sarah, how intense were those eyes? Very, very red. And just while we do that, have a look at the moon that's starting to grow above us. So what we would have just seen is I'm going to stop so that you can view it nicely. So what we would have seen is look, you can kind of see the moon there, the shadow of the moon. Isn't that incredible? So as that opens up, that's now going to turn into a waxing moon. So waxing means the moon is getting bigger, and waning means that the moon is getting smaller. I often use the analogy of waxing my surfboard to say that the moon is getting bigger. That's one way that I do it. But isn't that just an incredible sighting? You can even see in that picture some of the craters on the moon. I have to be very still in my vehicle because I can easily move the frame. Look how incredible our moon is. Beautiful shot here. So, we're on the search for a bush baby. Mr. Glutes is interested to know how small a bush baby is. I'm going to use my hands to show you. Probably around that big. That's how big the bush babies are. That big. So that's probably around the size. But let's do even better. It's a find you one. Let's find you one live. That'll be cool, eh? Really cool when we find something live lurking around our bush. I can't believe how many bush babies we saw back there, Bryan. We saw about 5.
Yeah.
3 or 4, 5. There's something in that thicket there. Just caught a glimpse of red eyes down there. Just going to reverse a bit more. There was something there, whether that is a bush baby, but there was definitely red eyes. So we'll just go a little bit slower, see if we can pick up anything there. Ooh, can you see that, Bryan? Ooh, I thought I saw a hyena for a second. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me. Could have been anything, any of those night animals. Whatever it was, it managed to get away very, very stealthily from us. I definitely saw some very prominent red eyes. Oh well, we can only do our best to find you what we can out here in the bush. But as we go into these cold dips, so we're now coming down into a drainage line, so if you can imagine what we're feeling, it's starting to just get colder and colder as we go down. So, I've got my coat on, and I'm sure tomorrow morning is going to be a very cold morning because those clouds have left us and now no longer blanketing that warm air in and just releasing all that warm air. So we're probably going to wake up to quite a chilly morning, which I quite enjoy. I like waking up when it's cold and having a nice cup of tea or coffee. Yes. Dottie, thank you so much for explaining what moonshine is. Moonshine is when you can kind of just see the moon. Sorry, earthshine. Earthshine. You can just see some of that moon through the shadow. That is the reflection of some of the light coming off the earth and going on to our beautiful moon. So let's actually get another picture of that earthshine. Thank you, Dottie, for erasing us and giving us that knowledge. So what you see there, the light of that moon there, is coming off the earth. So not the bright part of the moon, the other side, or the majority of that, is earthshine. I'm sure many people were not aware of that. I was not aware of that. I'd heard of it before, but I totally forgot it. So thank you, Dottie, for sharing that with us. And I'm just so enthralled by how this camera is able to pick up some of the most incredible things out here in the bush. It's really going to make things so much more exciting as we go into winter with the moons. So, today has been fantastic. I really have had a good day. From this morning with Dave and finding the leopard that was crawling through. You could see the hyena behind Karula, and then we saw Karula jump into a tree. It was very, very exciting. And then to this afternoon with Bryan and his thunder jellyfish. Always an exciting friend to go out with in the bush. Them and Albus were exciting, and they helped us learn a little bit more about the Nkuhumas pride. And as well, how was that sighting with all those buffaloes? And then the buffaloes noticing the lions. It's something, that was the first time for me. I really, really enjoyed that. Otherwise, we saw a bush baby and saw a beautiful look of that moon. And we will see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Catch us early in the morning, our time 6 a.m. Not too sure what time it is for you. I know it's quite early in the morning. All the best, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Now, it sounds as though Sam has had an extraordinary day, and I've had a lovely day as well, despite the odd slap in the face by a stick. Slapstick. There was slapstick comedy. I I feel as though that's suitable humor for this evening. Nevertheless, truly enjoyed the time spent with the Mangheni female, a first for me. Now, apparently you have seen the Tsalala Breakaway Pride before. Before I started working here at WildEarth, I just remembered that while we were sitting with her, the fact that Brent said that he had, I think it was Brent, who had seen them around Arathusa airstrip. And that was just something that came to mind. So I think I'm right about that. I think some of our regular viewers have seen them before. This is the path that they walked across to Simbambili Dam. Hopefully we're not going to find ourselves at Simbambili Dam as well. Otherwise we have definitely gone horribly wrong. But at least I know where I am now. And my kung fu is stronger than yours, and I'm not making a statement. That was the name of the person who sent you the question. My kung fu is stronger than yours, not stranger than yours, has suggested that perhaps I might need safety goggles. I think we all do, between James's flies in his eyes. Dave, you've rescued him before from flies in the eyes. Dave's rescued me as well, actually, from having flies in my eyes. Perhaps some safety goggles would not be such a terrible idea. We would look rather silly though, and I think probably our spotting ability would be somewhat diminished by the presence of safety goggles. So for now, and for you across the world, we shall risk it. We shall take that risk upon us and prove ourselves up to the task. Cecilia, you've said that I've been asking for impala impressions, but that yours sounds more like flatulence than anything else. I said that mine sounded like a strangled goose and that Dave's was not much better, but I did promise you I'd try. So I'll give it a go. It sort of sounds something like this. No, that sounds like a leopard. No, you see, I can't do it. I'm useless. I'm appalling. Maybe a baboon was more of a good impression. So I'm sorry, my impala rutting impression just simply not up to scratch. I'll have to try harder next time. Maybe practice in front of a mirror in time for the sunrise safari. That is not going to happen. Thank you, Dave, for all of your fantastic camera work and your non-contribution to the impala rutting sounds. Thank you to Louise and to Kirsty in Final Control. And most importantly, thank you to all of you across the globe for your questions, comments, and participation in what is one of the largest safari vehicles on Earth. So wherever you are in the world, whether you are in Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere, have a wonderful day. We'll catch you tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Cheers, guys.